Well, everybody,
I mean,
welcome to the show for another week.
you get to
Because
tell stories out of it, so that's fine.
I do cold opens. This is how I do.
Mhm.
Just
Oh, cool. Are we on Twitch right
yeah, huh?
now? Okay. Are we live on Twitch?
No, I just record it and upload it.
Okay, sorry about that. My bad.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Better to make sure. You never know what you can say.
Yeah, 'cause I don't want you to include that story about the AK in this.
Yeah, I won't.
thanks.
I won't. I
Thank
won't.
you, I
It
appreciate
will. It will not. It will not be there. You have my word. I
Thank you.
will
Mhm.
crop the entirety up until I introduce the show. How about
Thank you. That's for you, gentlemen. That's
that?
for
Absolutely.
you, gentlemen.
Wait, it
Absolutely.
would be very slightly off topic.
Yeah, a little bit, little tiny bit.
Tiny.
I can tie it in. I can tie it in.
I'm sure you can tie it into the latest Call of Duty
No.
campaign or something
No,
like that.
RPGs.
RPGs.
We went RPGs. I can tie
The other kind of RPG, huh?
No. Yakuza, like a pirate in Hawaii, comes out
With an
this
AK.
month.
Well, everybody, welcome back to a new episode of Turn-Based Cynics. Joining us this week is my good friend CD, and a friend of mine from a different show I've been a co-star on, Nim. Thank you.
Hey,
He's a very interesting individual. I think you guys are really going to enjoy having him on, listening to him today. Honestly, I'm kind of excited. Really, it was a blast last time me and you got to hang out. Honestly, that was a show if I've ever been on one before.
Well, if I'm not on one, I'm on two.
Oh shit. Shit. All right. Fair enough. So, I usually start this show off with an introduction. So, how about you tell people a little bit about yourself? Let them get a little acquainted with you.
Okay, so for those who are curious, my name is Nim, or Nimicry if you're feeling professional. I'm currently fighting off a lung infection, so if I have this wonderful, deep baritone, sonorous quality of my voice, that's generally how I sound normally, but I'm still coughing a little bit, so excuse me if I cough in the middle of this. That being said, I tend to be an MMORPG guy. Of course, I grew up with the traditional RPGs of the SNES, of Dreamcast, of PlayStation, of Nintendo, things like that. The other thing I want to say is that I'm a veteran. I worked as an engineer for 10 years. I'm currently studying to be a psychologist. So when people tune into the content, we can have topics of varying levels of discussion, all through the gamut of topics. So what I want to share with you guys, one thing is very clearly, remember that in this limited life that we have, gaming is meant to be fun. There are people on Twitter and other social media platforms who monetize your outrage. So in a way that no matter what you do, they will always have a response to make it negative. And remember, keep this in mind as we go through media training, as we go through discussions, if there is a financial incentive to not understand something, it will not be understood.
Damn. Well said. All right. So, this is the part where we talk about what we've been playing lately, and I will tell you all right now. Nim, you're gonna like this because I've went back to revisit the first Like a Dragon.
Oh, very good. It's very good. Yeah, it's very such a great story. Because again, I'm a huge Yakuza fan, right? And when they were like, it's gonna be a turn-based game, I was like, okay, RGG, I'm concerned. I'm concerned. Guards up, and then they get in there, and it's just like, oh, you just kept the absurdity, and we're like, now there's a secret speed stat, and everybody just goes into like, it's fantastic. God,
so
Like
I
a
went
Dragon
back
is so good.
I went back to replay it because my initial playthrough I didn't get to dig into as much as I wanted because I do videos and I was like playing through it, and there's always this mixture between like wanting to show as much as you can, but not wanting to get hung up on shit. You know what I mean? Like, the story is already long enough, and I'm not saying that as like an insult to the game, but the storyline itself takes long enough as it is. If I start devoting another 20 hours to just doing like side content.
So if I may, let's call it the reverse Ubification of gaming in this case. So Ubisoft, there's this metric that people have where they're like, oh, how much time did you enjoy playing the game? Oh, okay, well, I completed the game in 60 hours, and it took me 100 hours to do 100% completion. Oh, okay, that's whatever. But here's the thing: not all hours are created equally. I give an example that we take Yakuza 0 versus any Far Cry series, any Far Cry. Yakuza 0 takes place in 2 cities and two or three other various locations you just visit for missions. And it is an open world that is densely packed, rich with content. Whereas your Far Cry, some of your later Assassin's Creeds are just basically, I'm climbing radio towers, I'm unlocking a map, I'm defeating bandit camps. That's technically a lot to do, but is it fun? Is it rich? Is it well written? Is it paced? It's kind of like that last Batman movie where the guy from Twilight played it. The first person the Riddler killed was the editor off screen because they could have cut about 20 minutes out of that movie and it had been fine and we'd have gotten to it. So I want to say when you talk about with Yakuza Like Dragon, the story being long enough, it is an incredibly well-written, well-paced story. Especially once you go back on New Game Plus and you don't have to worry about leveling or gearing. It's just I can just play through the narrative as it is, and it's great. So I just want to make sure that since the show is called Turn-Based Cynics, I want to make sure that skepticism is good, cynicism can be healthy, but there are too many people that are like, oh, why is Final Fantasy this? It's like, calm down, friend, calm down.
I will say, one of the things
honestly, speaking of Batman, 20 minutes out of a movie seems okay. I've seen far worse. You could have cut about 100% of Dark Knight Rises and it would have been fine.
Oh, man's getting in there boxing with the internet now. Someone's gonna say, you who were molded by the editing floor. You adopted it. I was born on the cut content scene. I can't do Tom Hardy's Bane voice at all.
I will say, like a Dragon has probably one of the best ways of having a narrative built, because you learn about Ichiban's past from his adoptive father, right? Like the circumstance in which his adoptive father obtained Ichiban. I use that term specifically.
No. It is it's a level of Greek or Shakespearean tragedy, because if for those who haven't played it, it's a great game. It's probably on sale. I recommend it highly. But literally the difference between Ichiban having the idealized life for him with a loving father and being raised by prostitutes who loved him, don't get me wrong, he was taking care of his kid, was 6 inches. Literally 6 inches of space.
Because one of the things I liked is you find out that story, but then you hear about Sawashiro's child story, and as he's telling it, I'm like, huh. And then it keeps going. I'm like, wait a minute. Hold on a second. This seems really familiar. And then it has the locker, and I'm like, oh no. Oh, yes, no.
So maybe the Gokudan aren't really very noble men in most cases, even though they would insist that they are noble men. And of course, depending on which site of Japanese history you go with, you may find people arguing for and against Yakuza in the Showa era, which is post-war Japan, because they got around bureaucracy and a few other things. I'm not an expert on modern Japanese history. I've read a few papers and books and seen lectures. I'll leave that to those who were there. But that, as a novice, that's my understanding of it. At one point, yes, there was maybe a legitimate function. I do say maybe because it is organized crime. But recently, especially with Yakuza, Like a Dragon, and further, there's been a lot of, even in real life, a lot of anti-organized crime statutes and laws being passed. So that's something, and that's even true in America too. We have a lot. We've had that since the 1980s with the 5 family trials.
Honestly, at times, just from my perspective of playing playing a lot of these Yakuza games, a lot of times I'm like, you know what, this seems less like a crime syndicate and just more like a bunch of bureaucracy. I know that's kind of the point, but a lot of times I'm like, huh.
Well, think about it this way, right? No matter what happens, I need to be able to buy widget. I need to be able to buy whatever widget this is in my hand. Okay, well, how do I do that? Well, first I've got to earn. Okay, and then I've got to protect my earnings. Then I've got to account for my earnings. Then if I'm doing it, I'm getting all the risk. Well, eventually I got to pay people to do that as we build out an organization. It's essentially the difference between a regular market and a black market economy. Literally is just the illegality or not of goods and services, because both economies function under the same principles, except that instead of with regular economies, you tend to settle things in courts. In underworld economies, you tend to settle things you know, with violence. No,
With
it's just one of those things. Now, there's not a lot of guns in Japan. In America, it would be a little bit more like, you know, that. But the point that I'm getting at is that it makes sense for this to mimic real life because it's based on real life. It's art imitating life, imitating art. Same thing if you remember Bleach Japan. In that game, there is a moral crusade that we get to the bottom of, and we find it's all built on false bullshit. Now, I'm not going to say let's juxtapose a fake moral crusade in the world right now. I'm going to very heavily imply that, and then let you fill in your particular bugbear for that, because there are a lot of fake moral crusades. I myself remember the Satanic Panic, when they thought that Dungeons and Dragons were going to cause people to sacrifice people to the devil. And my answer is, so your children are doing recreational math and you're mad about that. Okay, I just want you to know I just want you to know that they are thinking and problem solving in creative ways with their friends in a table in a basement with Mountain Dew and pizza doing math, and you're angry.
I will say, in defense of the parents on this, in defense of the parents,
all right.
In defense of the parents, if you saw the first edition handbook,
look, Gary Gygax, there is no problem that Gary Gygax in part was a very virulent racist and misogynist. A lot of his stuff works that way. Now, just because one author's work does this doesn't mean that it can't be transformed and moved on. After all, it's what happened with H.P. Lovecraft. He opened up his mythos, and a lot of people have done some things with it, despite Mr. Lovecraft being a product of his time. And I'm not trying to throw stones at a man or at men or people who have.
I think Reza was more talking about judging the book by its cover.
Oh, the sexual nature, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Hey, man, I'm just
literally in that case. That's open and low hanging fruit.
Open and low hanging fruit. Yeah. Like I said, I don't blame them. Like I don't know. When I was a kid, I wanted to get a Diablo 2.
Oh, we can plenty blame them.
Yeah, I mean they made it. It's easy.
When I was a kid, I wanted to buy Diablo 2, and my mom was like against it. Mm-hmm. She was like, she saw, you remember the cover to the Diablo 2 box?
Came out when I played it when I was in 8th grade. I remember I had the battle chest. It was fantastic. I got it the year it came out.
My mom was like, no. My dad looked at the back of the box. He goes, "Yo, this looks cool." Absolutely.
You know what? And shout out to Rezo's dad for being cool, because as titillating as, you know, box art is just that. It's designed to get you to pick up the box because once you pick up the box, there's a certain amount of commitment you've already made. It's why they let you take test drives in cars or take something home for the night. It's like, well, you don't want to return the puppy. People hate to give things up. So that's why that's one of those psychological tricks to sales. But you know, shout out to your dad for being, because ultimately it wasn't. Yeah, it's dark and it's demonic, but the role, if we contextualize the role of the hero, you are going after a hero who was corrupted. Your whole job is to come in there and be like, hey, look, Templars, slay the demons. These guys, all these things,
all these dudes.
Yeah, all dudes, people, whatever, how they pronounce spiders, monsters. But you're a hero, and more importantly, you are the next hero, because the last hero's journey that went through with the soul gem in the head, you know, he did the canonical hero did well, but then became the Dark Wanderer because, you know, when you put poison in your brain, your brain gets poisoned. Insert joke about RFK here.
So let me see here. You know what, Nim? What have you been up to? What have you been playing? What's been keeping up your spare time?
So I recently got promoted at work, so I've been doing a lot of actual work as opposed to dealing with that. But I will tell you, I recently logged back into World of Warcraft, and I started with Cataclysm Classic. And people may be like, you know, Nim, I played that when it was current, it was retail. I'm playing as a protection paladin like I did back then. Still loving it. And I find the game to be very, very rewarding, even with, they added some modes that are increased difficulty where the mobs have more health and do more damage, but that's it. So with them doing more damage, certain mechanics that you could just like, I'm not going to worry about that, now scale a little differently, so it's fine. And it's very rewarding because even though I did 7 dungeons last night on the hardest difficulty, they're called fissures, they give you some resources to buy some gear, that comes in later. It wasn't punishing. Meaning, because I knew that by me doing these dungeons, I'm eventually going to have that currency to get the exact piece of gear that I want. And what do you know? I got the thing I want. It goes, it makes my character better, and I become more and more effective. Now, Blizzard often will say that, hey, players will optimize the fun out of a game. Some players will. That's fine. We all know people like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's that. But there is a certain thing where determinism makes you not feel helpless. The problem with I love MMORPGs. In fact, on Twitter, Nimicry, MMORPG advocate. I love that. I think a certain level of determinism in every part of the game is good. Is that I want Sword X. Sword X is the best sword I can get out of this level of content. And I think that if I run a dungeon 10 times in a row, I should be able to get that sword at that level of content, not, or lower, not necessarily higher. Like, oh, I ran 10 normal modes and now I want super mega fire ultra nightmare version.
God,
and it's like, no, that's run 10 of those. And it's hard. Yes.
You're bringing back flashbacks of when I played WoW, when I played like WoW original back in like the early 2000s, and I was running MC to get anathema for my priest.
I'm very familiar with that. Benediction, all those things. The other thing I would say is other games that got there really quickly. I've been enjoying Hades 2 a little bit. I pick it up every now and again, and it's such a good game. Supergiant just does not miss, and as kind of the biggest of the indie developers that I know of, at least. They just release a fantastic product every time. I am literally blown away by the quality of Hades 2.
Better than the first one, because I've really been digging the first one.
I would say yes, it's not even in full release yet. There's still a section of the area that you don't get to go to yet, and I'll be honest with you, it plays a little differently than the first one. You had kind of an evolution of skill, but I highly recommend it. I'm going to be honest with you. That's one of those things. And, of course, I tried a little bit more of Magic the Gathering Arena. I'm a huge fan of Magic the Gathering. I don't know if either of you gentlemen ever played Magic the Gathering seriously.
I have.
Nope.
Okay, I'm a huge fan. For those curious, I love blue-black hand control mill. That's exactly what I want to do. I want to put something out there, make it to where you have to slow you down and slowly chip away at your deck, because I want you to sit there when you're playing with me and despair. And be like, oh, that top deck is gonna give me that top. Nope, we're gonna send that back. We're gonna count it. We're gonna do something, because I don't want you. I like control decks. Now, don't get me wrong. There's real power in being able to go like bat and knock an enemy out. But oftentimes you have too much life for that to really be effective consistently. Sometimes it's one of the reasons why I don't like poison, because poison doesn't have any hard counter that I'm aware of that removes poison counters. I know there's one in Mirage, but poison makes your total life 10. And
the deck I've played a lot, physically at least, was a red and black. So the entire idea of it was like, I put a few zombies out in front of me. If you put a monster out, it's instant dead with a black spell, and then I spend the rest of my time pegging you in the face with fireballs until you until you die.
Yeah. So you got burn and spot. You got burn and spot removal, which is really good. It's a great response.
I struggle against white though. If I have to go up against like a legit like white deck, like a white deck that's like specifically about just regen, I won't succeed, because I can't. Cause I usually can't do enough damage to you generally. Like a lot of my plan is I don't count on you being able to regenerate your health.
So check this out, right? When it comes to Magic, and I always have this theory, is that if my deck strategy goes off, I'm going to win. That's how I build a deck, right? And when it comes to stuff like that, is my job as to stop you from executing your strategy and execute mine. Those are the two steps. So hence why I like to play the way I do. Some formats it's a little stronger, some it's a little weaker depending on how they balance the cards. But with hand control, I take your potential options from, let's say, 7 to 3 or 4. So I've cut almost half of your ability to respond to me in half. Plus, if I mill stuff to your graveyard, unless you now have to take one of your potential responses that you have to draw into to be able to hopefully get something back from your graveyard to either the deck or your hand or the field. And that's you're gambling there now, because it breaks the cycle. We have to understand that one of the greatest game designers ever, Richard Garfield, he created Magic in the way that I wish more game companies would create games, is that there is a series of rules, and then that is modified by play conditions. And those are the 2 layers of the rules. If you break everything down. Now, some people say, well, Nim, mechanics are all either horsemanship or kicker. Okay, that's a different meme aside for those who have played. But that's how Richard Garfield, who, by the way, has a PhD. I forget exactly what it's in, but it's one of those things. So he designed that. But yeah, those are the games that I'm playing. World of Warcraft Classic, Hades 2, and Magic the Gathering Arena. Excellent games. Hasbro kind of killing the game a little bit with the over monetization, but
yeah, I'm getting sick. I'm getting sick of these special edition things they do, and then they just disappear before I can even have a chance to get them.
The 30th anniversary for Magic, the thing that players should survive. I remember starting playing when I was real little in elementary school. Right, was $1,000. It was $1,000 for a 30th anniversary box, and I'm just like, who is that for? Who is that for? That's not for me. Like I'm not super wealthy or anything. I do well enough. I could have bought one, but $1,000? Really? Really $1,000? Not you couldn't do 300? But like, okay, you know,
how many of those do they expect to sell? 5, 10?
Oh no. What happened was it was all built for speculators to buy things and then resell on eBay. That's the whole purpose.
A lot of the stuff that like the cool stuff that they come up with ends up getting scalped, sucked up by speculators and
which
resold.
Thematically works really well with Rakdos, because Rakdos, the Black and Red Guild out of Ravnica, is all about upheaval and destroying the established order. So what I'm hearing is, against these packs, Rezo is Viva la Revolucion.
I wish, man.
Regular price packs.
I get so annoyed because
it's just wealth extraction. You're not giving me anything that I can. You're trying to prey on my nostalgia, and you know, at a certain price points that'll work. Of course, we all have our own little things that we like. You know, if someone were like, hey Nim, you know, we're gonna remake Chrono Trigger in Final Fantasy VII remake style. Oh, I didn't know this is where I give you my money now. Thank you for letting me know that we're doing that, because I love Chrono Trigger. It's one of my favorite games of all time. But anyways, I don't mean to derail. I don't want to derail you too much.
If you buy that game, then you pay the regular price of a game,
as opposed to $1,000.
And there's enough effort in there.
Yeah, $1,000. I'm sorry. I'm struggling with. I'm struggling with that.
That's because you work for a living, Rezo. You're like, wait a minute. So you want me to pay in some places more than a month's rent for a box of cards that I can't use in a constructed tournament for nostalgia purposes? Okay, just sell me the NFT and tell me
very practical.
Yeah, basically. So CD, what have you?
I mean, the last part they're already doing anyway, so yeah.
Yeah, CD's right.
Well, for me it's been pretty workloaded this week, but I did continue with Tales of Graces. And that's been going quite nicely. Yeah, did a few attempts at the Kurt fight, got lucky in one, beat him, and continued on. I'm now at the point where we found the aircraft. And we're in the process of getting that ready.
I've never played Tales of Graces. I did play Tales of Arise most recently of the Tales series. And I really I like the Tales series
Yes.
a lot. Berseria was good. I played Zillia 1, where you were the med student, I think. Who the doctor who fist fights. Yeah. It's like,
exactly.
hey, your kidney's busted. No, it isn't.
Now it is.
What are you talking about? You know,
having medical experience can help you in a fist fight like that.
He's like, hey, buddy.
You know the weak spots.
He's like, hey, buddy.
It's very clearly laid out in Tales of Zillia that he is an A student. They say in the beginning, he's very clear that he is an A student.
Yep.
So he knows.
He's like, hey, buddy. He's like, hey, buddy. Looks like you're having some liver problems. He's like, no, I'm not. I feel just fine. Whap!
Let me hit the vagus nerve, and you're like. No,
actually, I wanted to bring this up. Last time when I talked about Arise, but I hadn't beaten it at the time when I talked about it on the show. I've now beaten like the base game of Arise.
Very good.
Mwah! So good. So
I have
good.
Devil Arms in that, and I have max level characters, and I occasionally go back to the end and fight the edgelord boss again. And at this point, I was like, son, like, listen, Alphen is coming in here with all the shonen hero nonsense that you can bring, all of Tanjiro's kindness, and all of Midoriya's enthusiasm, and I am putting a boot to ass. And I'll reload, and I'm putting another boot to ass. Because I remember he rolled up in the story like 35 hours before then, you know, all Black Crow. I've just recruited another party member, and he's like, yeah. I'm like, all right, I got this probably. And then through plot device, he's like, weave, flip. Wow.
Yeah, like.
Okay.
No, that entire scene fucks me up because I was like, bro, you go just have this guy just show up and just style on the entire party? Like, that's what?
So at max level, after having gotten the devil arms, beating the hidden bosses, I'm gonna go back. I go back again and be like, oh, you're level 55. That's cute. Lay down.
Lay down.
You're gonna kick the boot up his ass so he can taste it.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not really discriminating on that part. He is gonna feel it though.
Yeah, but
that man was diabolical with those numbers. Because if we remember, he ran an entire country that was a brainwashed cult and then sacrificed people to him. So like, again. Current day argument, depending on how you want to look at things. So I'll let people juxtapose their own situations, you know, as they see fit there.
I got through it, and I will say, I talked about this on the show not too long ago. Where like, so the last dungeon has this diabolical thing that they do, and like one of the last rooms, it has like 8 teleporters, right? Yeah. And in the room that leads to the final boss, there's a warp thing that you can use to go back to the entrance so you can go get stuff, but you can only do it if you take out those 8 separate encounters beforehand, right? So me being a slight completionist, and I was like, well, I know there's armor in there, so I might as well just complete them. Bro, some of these fights were stupid hard. I was like, Jesus.
Oh yeah, but, did you get the devil arms?
No, I didn't. I just
Yeah, it becomes worse.
Yeah,
like, to get Alphen's blade is.
I got through like half of those fights, and I'm like, Jesus, this is getting rough. I know, and part of me, I have this thing where like if it's too difficult, I consider not doing it, right? And I'm like, I don't have to do this. But then I'm like, no, I'm already here. I've already beaten like half of these dudes. I'm just gonna have to just bite the bullet and get through it because I'm not wussing out now. Like,
all right.
I don't know. Maybe I'm stubborn. I admit it. But sometimes it's just a matter of like, oh, I'm already partway there. I might as well finish.
So I'm a fan of Dark Souls. I've beaten every Dark Souls game that I can come across, and most of the Souls likes that I've played. I will tell you this, that attitude is what gets people through Dark Souls, and people tend to enjoy the wall, as it were, because you get there and you start chipping away at it, and eventually, some more came off, and then you walk through like the Kool-Aid Man, like, yeah, I'm ready to go through it, like,
I did it.
Let them know, and you let them know, and it's a sense of accomplishment, and that's good, but. As you know, in gaming, both of us have dealt with people and guildmates and friends that are like, "Hey, dude, it's not that serious. You can relax a little bit, take a break, come back because you're too heated or you're too something else." Because especially with the MMO part where people rage and it's like, "Dog, it was a missed interrupt and no one died."
Roach out.
Yeah, like I've had that
in a recent thing.
Like for me at least in MMOs, I've had like that happen. Like when I was I played WoW with this one school friend of mine he played a warrior. Dude was like, bro, he was tight. Like, you know what I mean? You know, the kind of people where they're clinched all the time.
Man's making diamonds with his sphincter. Gotcha.
Yeah, like homeboy is clinched 24/7. I don't think that like completely tight all the time. And he would like lose his cool over like the smallest thing. Like if his health got too low during a fight, he's like, "Where's my heals at?" I'm like, "Bro, chill. You are 45%, dog. It ain't that bad. Ain't that serious."
Also, I would say so as a person who does, I mained healer in War Within for a while. And I got Keystone Hero for the last 2 seasons of Mythic Plus. Through pugging, by the way, so it was random.
Ooh, okay.
I will tell you that a lot of the times comes down to, hey, why is your mitigation not on cooldown? Why is your stun not on cooldown? Why is your even your minor defenses 5, 10, 15% damage reductions or whatever? Why are you standing? Why you keep standing in fire? Because I've looked at books many times, spell books, skill books, guides, everything, and I never have the ability heal stupid. I've never gotten that ability. It doesn't exist.
You were that
Would be
that's
good,
actually,
wouldn't it?
Yeah,
That's
oh
actually-
God, I would never stop casting. Be like, huh.
That-
As a
that-
paladin, light. As a shaman, water. As a druid, leaves.
that reminds me of a friend of mine who plays where we'll dungeon together once in a while, and like something will happen, he'll just die, and he'll be like, man, don't worry about it. He goes, that's my fault. That's my fault. I was too slow on the upkeep. He's like,
yeah, it's like I stood in the death, and then I was like, I wonder what's gonna happen here. There's some teeth. There's a big monster. You know what? We're gonna let this play out. It would be rude for me to judge early.
it's like he's like I had 45% health. I went to 0. There was nothing you could do to save me.
Yeah, sometimes
The
that happens.
risk was calculated, but man, am I bad at math.
Yes. Yeah, no, I have that thing. But no, like I said, I think with the MMO community, there's this weird divide right now. So I'm 37. I remember playing MMOs starting back in 99, 2000, 2001-ish era with Anarchy Online, Ultima Online, then eventually moving into World of Warcraft. I tried Rift. I did a lot with Rift, a whole bunch of things. Like I played a whole bunch of different MMOs, and I really enjoy a lot of them. But the old style of grind up, build up, go has this interesting. It doesn't necessarily land as much because it takes a big time commitment. And there's a lot graphics and other games and other snappy modes to play with are somewhat more attention gathering to a vast majority of people. But there's that subset that's like, hey, I see a bar unfilled. I must fill that bar. And that's the MMO player. And so I would say that there would be a downswing. But then you look at the popularity of hardcore classic in like World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy XI still has a pretty big player base, and Final Fantasy XI has 2 strikes against it. One, it is absolutely balls hard to install because I don't know why. Try it, and you'll be like, "Oh, this is installation savage," And then the second thing is that it's some classes like the White Mage doesn't have an offensive toolkit.
No,
so you have to play with other people.
Yeah, you have to. Well, 1, you have to play with other people in 11, and 2. You're required at that point to subclass something offensively if you don't want to just get slapped in the face and not have an answer.
You're never gonna, because as much healing as I do myself and never kill the enemy. And then of course with hardcore classic, there are people that constantly die and reroll, constantly die and reroll, constantly die and reroll. And of course algorithmic feeds will be tailored to what you like. But the fact that there are thousands of people who tune in and watch that, thousands of people who do that, shows that at some level people yearn for the grindstone.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, right? Because this is something I read about a lot. Like there was a statistic from, I want to say about 5 or 6 years ago, where it mentioned that like something like 60 or 70% of people don't actually get very far in games at all. Like they get maybe like the majority of players barely get past the first like 30% of any game that they pick up or something like that. It's a really large number.
So Josh Strife Hayes did a video called The 100-Hour Problem a few years ago. For those who don't know, Josh Strife Hayes, very good, very, very, very talented video creator.
Yeah,
much bigger than
fantastic.
All of us. And it was talking about how the game gets good after 100 hours. And my answer is, as people who have to work, I assume all of us here work at some level. That's more than 2 full-time weeks of work, and you're telling me that it doesn't get good. He used Warframe as an example. Now, for those who have never played Warframe, I want you to imagine space ninjas with guns and either technological magic or actual magic powers, and you fight enemies, and that's Warframe, and you just repeat the loop. And there was the screenshot he had shown in there was that less than 60 or like 60% of people did not have the reach 2-hour mark playtime. So it was an onboarding issue. How do we onboard somebody? Later on, after watching that, I did a little but an addendum video because I agree with the points. And it was called Respecting the Player's Time. The idea that it's good to have grinds. Grinds need to have a logical endpoint. And after that, you can just keep doing it if you enjoy it. Meaning that, let's say hypothetically, CD here makes a game, and the best armor in the game can be gotten through 100 hours of running this dungeon. Literally, it's a clock. 100 hours of running this dungeon, I can get it. But you also, CD, because you are a craftsman and an artisan at your soul, you made excellent music, fun, dynamic, changing boss fights. I mean, you really were like, hey, this is where we blow the budget. This is the thing we use the budget on. There will be nothing left over. In fact, give me $5. Dame dinero. Anyway, so it's one of those things. And now there's going to be a certain segment of people in your very popular game that are like, yeah, I got the cold death armor. Obviously, I'm not a noob, but I still like this place because these fights are fun. It works for my daily quest, and you can build things in to kind of make grinds less antagonistic. So, so that's what I'm saying with respecting the player's time, is because now you doing that gameplay helps you achieve multiple objectives. And funny enough, even if we all had infinite money, we only have limited lifespans. You got to go to the bathroom sometime.
Yeah.
You can't all, I mean,
you know, you say, you bring that up, and this is something else I've kind of we've probably talked about when it came to like the concept like live service games, right? Like you have all these companies trying to make live service games, and it's like, okay, hypothetically, even if these companies could all make good games, right? Good, enthralling live service game that people would want to play, right?
Yeah, I can't wait to log in.
Yeah, even if they could do that, like suppose perfect reality. Only a few of these games would actually succeed because you can't. People only have so much time, like, right? Like if you work,
we saw this too, Rezo, with the modern military shooter that happened back, when Call of Duty 4 first got really big. We saw this again with the MMO craze. We saw this again with the battle royale craze. We saw this again with the. I'm trying. There was a little bit of an auto battler thing for a little while, but that kind of fizzled out because there was nothing for consoles. So it was just all PC. But we've
seen it with the gacha craze.
Yeah, the gacha. Yeah, gacha is one of those things. So you will have your very dedicated fan base, right? I play World of War. This is a Hearthstone pillow behind me as my lumbar, right? Right, Hearthstone right behind me. I'm a lumbar pillow, right? Like I'm a huge fan, but there's only, if I already have this, you have to create a product or get my friends to tell me about something enough to get me to move, invest, and become a thing. There was a video by Tornioff Yolstrom called Hook, Habit, Hobby. And it talks about the predators, the ways to monetize in games. And it generally describes very predatory affairs. But it's good to look at the gaming psychology of design for how we get things to work. Because they talk about, well, to a player, there's archetypes of players, and certain people aren't ever incentivized by things. Like, so for me, I have the superpower of I don't ever care how my character looks. I do not care. You can give me if I earn something, that's great, but you could put all the flashiest things in the world on the store, and unless it comes with something that I think is useful for player power or player utility, I'm not gonna buy it. And the cool thing is, and let me finish real quick. Sorry, Rezo. You can't openly sell player power or player utility. Because if you do, people are going to be like, well, it's pay to win. Now I don't want to play because now if I don't whip out my credit card, I'm behind. Why am I doing this? And we disconnect. I'm no longer connected to your game, and I'll find something else.
Yeah.
Sorry, Rezo. I just wanted.
I was going to mention though, like as far as the player types, I know what I am. I'm the grinder. I don't even hide it. Like I'm the guy that like boots up an RPG, and the first thing I'm thinking to myself is, all right. When can I grind? When can I obtain more power? Game, why are you railroading me? Let me off the rails. I want to become powerful.
Slimes respawn. I need to smite you.
How does the
metal slimes?
How does the respawn mechanic work in this game? I want to gain power. Please and thank you. It's actually one of the few reasons I'm not always a fan of like games that do like the dynamic scaling.
Oh yeah.
Because what they end up doing is it ends up like plateauing out what experience you get outside of bosses, right? So like the bosses give you this massive boost of XP, but then everything else kind of is eh.
So what I would think is you can write scaling in many different ways. I'll give you an example. Diablo 4, for those who played it, when it was at launch, I was not the only one who experienced this. When you leveled up, you felt weaker, which I think is really a problem, because the idea in this game is you want me to get in there, you want me to click, 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 and as I swing my sword or cast my spell or summon my minions or do whatever, I get stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger, and I fight stronger things. Things hit harder. Now, obviously, gear wears out and all that, but I distinctly remember a notice from 35 to 36. I felt a very shift, like a distinct, like, okay, I'm doing good, I'm chopping through things, I get a new talent point, all right, yeah, hey, now my chains do more stuff, and enemies just were like suddenly way tankier in the same area I was in, and this was right at launch, so they may have fixed it. It's fine if they did. I'm not denigrating Diablo 4 and the people who work on it. It's just that was a problem with scaling. Like you mentioned, Rezo. It's like, okay, great, I killed this boss. Yeah, I got like a level and a half, but for the next 4 hours, I get 1 level. Like, and not 4 hours of like cutscene, but like, hey, walk in a circle. Oh, da 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 da. Dun 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 dun. Flash. Dun dun dun.
Essentially, your progress is like you're walking through tar.
Yeah, except every now and again you get to walk on land. Like okay, so we're
10 minutes tar, 1 second land, 10 minutes tar,
and then
1 second
for
land.
Flavor, for variation, because I would hate for anybody to say this design is bland. We have molasses, we have mud, we have quicksand.
Some quicksand in there,
Yeah, right,
Don't tell
right.
me. But at the end of the day, no matter how you dress it up, it still slows the player progress. And in a single player game, there's no reason. I mean, like, I get why you don't want people to be able to hit one fight and be, oh, you're level 99. Okay, yeah, that defeats some of the purpose. But at a certain level, if it's a single-player game, what does it matter? If you're worried about, well, what about the achievements, Nim? What about the achievements? Oh, the achievements on a single-player game that you do for fun to relax with. Okay, I don't know. If they use the level speed-up thing or whatever, achievements are disabled for that run. I don't know what to tell you. But games are meant to be fun, and too many people take them far too seriously.
Because I know for me, one of the things I talk about that I don't like in some games is I understand, like, you don't want, like, sometimes I kind of wish games were kind of more like early Dragon Quest, where it's like, you could walk through a field, go to the other side of the field, and then meet death itself, and not realize it.
So, how do you feel about Baldur's Gate 3 then? Because Baldur's Gate 3 is probably the closest you're going to get to having that level of freedom. And I know it's not people said it was the new RPG standard. It's not, because if you try to replicate that and you don't have that resource and talent pool, you're just going to fail. And
I love Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah, okay, I was just curious. Cold Death, yourself, any thoughts on that for you?
Yeah, I played it a bit myself, but definitely going to continue playing it. But yeah, that's a great game.
I found myself during my run where it's like, oh, we shouldn't do this. So I'm like, why not? Why shouldn't I do this? This seems perfectly fine.
They have a feat for that. It's called Dark Urge.
They have a Well, I wanted for this show, because I feel like we might have like naturally skipped one topic and went straight to the MMOs and went to the MMOs, but that's what a loose outline is for. It's
Guys, I want everybody watching this post-recording know that we are actually trained professionals, and all of this seems like ad-libbing. We all actually went to years and years of theater school. CD was an actual master at the dramatic monologue. Ask him in the comments to give you a dramatic monologue, and he will not disappoint. It will bring you to tears. His rendition.
Or you'll realize that it's just dry humor.
No.
Very, very dry humor.
Look at me.
I'm
the sarcastic one now.
Didn't see that one coming, tell you that much. Shit, man, throw me for a damn loop. I wasn't ready. I wasn't prepared for that. So, I wanted to say there's 2025 is looking like it's going to be a bit of a tasty year for RPGs.
Oh, yeah.
I speak specifically on RPGs because that's just the genre I tend to gravitate towards the most. But oh boy, it's it's a tasty looking year. I never, you know, I can't say it was on my bingo card for 2025 when Nintendo decided to just drop a random trailer on a Thursday for Xenoblade Chronicles X. I can't say I was prepared for that. That wasn't, you know, I didn't wake up one morning and go, you know, it'd be really great if Xenoblade Chronicles X got a re-release. That would be.
I mean, people have been waiting for that for a long time.
It's like
And
that.
Nintendo doesn't often listen. I think Nintendo just does what Nintendo does, because there are people who always are like, "Hey, can we have this?" And then they're like, "No."
They won't just say anything about it. They're just silent. Until
like
they're
on
not.
the wall. Yeah, and then it's like, well, guys, why do you sometimes worry that we don't communicate with you? It's because when I ask you if I can give you
Because you
hard
don't.
dollars, it's a wall. It's a wall. You know, like.
Because there's also you mentioned it, Yakuza Pirates, which I have to say,
God, I want that Majima as a 1700s pirate in modern day Hawaii. Any other series, you're smoking crack on any other series, but in Yakuza, RGG, I believe they can pull it off. I believe they can pull it off.
Because I was when I initially saw like the preview for it, when they first presented it, I was like, huh. This sounds like some Majima themed nonsense I would expect. And then I saw the trailer for it, the actual like real trailer for it, and I'm like, oh.
It's real.
Yeah,
this isn't this like the goofy Majima shit I expect. This might actually be kind of.
Well, it's still gonna be goofy. It's still gonna be crazy because that's how the zaniest Majima events. The thing that I want to see, and I haven't had a chance to play the game obviously yet. I don't know if it's out. I gotta check.
It's not out. It comes out second to last week of the month.
All right,
on
so
Friday?
I'll have to pick that up one day, but as soon as I can, I may buy it after this just because I know I'm gonna buy it anyways. But if there is a scene in there where if we can get Majima to say like the One Piece is real, be like, please let's just meta this all because because you know pirates and all that and. I'm
One
looking
Piece
forward to
is
that.
just the friends we made along the way.
No, Oda said it would not be that. He specifically interviewed was like, I hate those type of stories. It is not going to be that. And I was like, thank you.
One of the crew would say that, and then he would hit him in the face.
Yeah,
Slap him upside the head. Be like, no, stop that.
It is a universal shonen truth that even a serious battle character cannot beat a joke character in a straight fight. You have to do a joke fight. You have we saw it with Dr. Slump and Aral when with Goku and Vegeta and Super Saiyan Blue. They had to be joke fight. But anyways, we're talking about games. I gotta bring up, which you two may not necessarily be slightly familiar with, is there's gonna be a new Doom the Dark Ages.
Oh yeah,
I love Doom. I loved Doom Eternal. I loved the remake of the Doom. And I'll be honest with you, they both enjoyed. I enjoyed them for different reasons. Excuse me. I enjoyed them for different reasons. And Doom Eternal, as much people thought was real fast and real frenetic, it's actually a very mellow rhythm game. And I say it because so you think about it, right? Like you go in there, around, you move, and it's like, oh, there's a Keiko demon. Okay, a little grenade in your mouth. Then there's a little spider thing. Pop, blow you up. You blow off the turret. Oh, there's some demons. Okay, a little chainsaw, then a flamethrower. Oh, I got a blood punch. Bah. And then everything's mild, everything's cool, and then the Marauder gets introduced. And originally, I didn't like the Marauder because I thought it upset the flow. And then I realized, like, after playing for a while and getting the rhythm and how to kill him and all that jazz, we're like, okay, great, boom, I got this guy. And it makes sense that is the crescendo in the piece of music that each kill room has. So, you see your Keiko demons, your imps, your things, you just tear them, rip them apart, get your ammo, do your thing, burn them up, get your armor. And then the Marauder is out there always being this constant background noise or this very aggressive in your face piece of music, and everything, all the other melodies underlie it. Once that's over, then you have the de-escalating tension and boom, and you're back. And that's why I think of Doom Eternal essentially as a rhythm game, as a musical rhythm game, because everything has a response, even the Marauder. And for those that don't know,
so the Marauder is like the flute guy from the Game Award show from the orchestra.
Yes, and for those who don't know, the Marauder, when his eyes turn green and he swings at you, blast him with a super shotgun. you got to be in medium melee range because if you're too far away, he'll send his dogs out and he puts up a shield that you can't get around. Now you can shoot the BFG at his feet and nuke him, and you can use the arbalist to shoot his feet and nuke him as well.
I always find it funny or interesting within like the gaming zeitgeist where like I haven't played Doom Eternal, but I have become acutely aware of that one enemy just from the conversations around the game.
All right, you need to understand that Doom Eternal was so peak when it released because it released during COVID and it released at the same time of
Animal
Crossing, and the memes were immaculate. They were immaculate memes. Isabella and the Doom guy are running through things, and there's video of that, and it's just like, you know, like Isabella's like rip and tear until it's over, and then they're just like we're slaying demons as shreds. Like it was the greatest. It was a great crossover.
It is.
Yeah, but the new Doom is coming out. Dark Ages. Apparently, it takes place in the past. So I got to see a bone fragment chainsaw, or a bone fragment minigun. I think it was on the Doomslayers. He loads skulls into it and just fires out chips of bone at ballistic speeds. So it's just like, okay, that's. I mean, listen. If anything, that is our recycling king. You know, like rip.
Yeah, use all the corpse, man. Use all of it.
And
you can't.
And honestly, boy,
Can't let it go to waste.
And what was that old quote from Castlevania in '64? It's it's shameful when a demon needs money these days. Well, if you got to cut costs, then expenses are too high.
You have to cut costs and expenses are too high. Jesus. Another game I'm like become more excited for is the Lunar remaster for 1 and 2.
Oh god, I loved Lunar Silver Star Story. I remember when I got that as a kid as a collector's version. I paid $80 for it. I worked a whole bunch because I love the PS1 RPGs, and it had this big thick box and a leather-bound map, leather-bound construction booklet, and a cloth map and a soundtrack, and then the game was great too. I was like, oh, it was so good. Oh my god, Alex and Dine and Luna and everything. And then they troll the players with the soap item. So the easy bath to get to when you come across
was the men for the men, but the really difficult one. Two-thirds the way through the game. That's the one you wanted.
Yeah, well, or whoever. It doesn't matter. I don't know who's watching this, but the point is that the typical audience for those games would be something different, and it was a great subversion. Lunar was so good, and the soundtrack, I loved the soundtrack, and the fact that at the end, it's not Alex as the Dragon Master that saves the world. It's Alex as the friend.
Yeah.
That saves the world. And for those that don't, because if you remember at the end, there's a certain point where you can save anywhere. But there's a certain point where if you step past and you haven't done a certain action, Luna as the Dark Goddess is like, hey, smite.
Smite.
And you're dead. And you die. Game's over. So just something there. But I'll leave that for those who haven't and played. Lunar is amazing. That's such a good. I didn't realize that was coming out this year. That's such a good
it comes out in April. So
ooh, that's a good one. The Doom one comes out in May. Just like
Like I said, man, 2025. Like I honestly, it's good. It's good. It's cooking.
We got some things.
I've already in March.
Yes, the Suikoden
Suikoden 1 or 2.
Both the collection
1 and 2 HD
is in March.
God, Konami is. Look, I don't want to give Konami praise because Konami is.
Konami.
Look, man. Like when Castlevania had its 30th anniversary. No official acknowledgement from any of the Twitter accounts, except for like one random European country was like, or European Konami thing was like, hey, happy 30th anniversary, Castlevania. And I'm like, you mean Castlevania, the de facto vampire supernatural fighting series in gaming, Castlevania. That's like if Capcom was like, hey, Mega Man, yeah, I guess it's a thing. We had like I don't know. Yeah, that's that's what I'm saying.
More like Mega Meh.
It's like it had a couple of games. Nothing really to talk about.
It wasn't foundational to a lot of nerds of our generation, where it's like, you know, like it's great. Like, oh, there's X, get in there. You hear that, ooh, and you walk in with a charge shot, like, bow, bum, bum, bum,
I
bum,
mean,
bum, banana.
I feel like, you know, one of the things I've really kind of come to enjoy now more than ever is the fact that I'm seeing more and more of like games that I've really wanted to come back. Because, like, to put into perspective, besides the PS1 version of Lunar, the last time we've seen anything of Lunar was a GBA version, which yeah, there was a GBA version, which meant, but there was also a PSP remake of the first Lunar game.
Okay,
Or
I mean, that's fair
reimagining, I guess. I guess it's closer to a reimagining because they kind of the story was mostly the same, but they emphasized a little bit more on some of the past events that you don't see in the game.
Fair
So
enough.
like the original heroes, it kind of goes
dying.
into some of their backstories and like how they interacted with each other, along with what your adventure was.
Okay, I mean that makes sense. I think we have to understand that, especially now with the ballooning costs of games, there is this disconnect between what gamers are told they want and what gamers may want. Now, obviously, I don't speak in absolutes. Some people probably only care about the highest graphical fidelity they can get, and then exist in that world, and they want to be there. A lot of executives and the C-suite people, they'll talk about like, oh yeah, well these development costs. It's like, okay,
which are mostly your own fucking fault.
Yeah. Who told you to make a game?
Like, look at the latest news. Wonder Woman is now being rebooted. It already cost $100 million. Smack off.
Yeah, and my thing is that players want a fun, engaging game. I like Vampire Survivors was $5 when I bought, and I've got like 100 hours on that. I bought the DLC, and it was great. Well, does that mean you want more Vampire Survivors? No, I want more games that are fun. If you chase a trend, you're probably always going to be behind.
Yeah, you're
but
not
actually, people also want more Vampire Survivors, which
some people do.
We see since the game is constantly getting updated. And I was about to mention Vampire Survivors because Konami has finally woken up after that whole thing with the 30th anniversary that you said, because they've been re-releasing the collections one after the other.
Yeah, I got the Dominus collection from Steam, and it's great. It's great.
Mm-hmm. And additionally, obviously, there was also the Contra collections and everything, and they even let WayForward make the reimagining of the first Contra, the Operation Galuga one, which, Contra OG.
And the thing is, I understand why people may not necessarily want to.
Mm-hmm.
I was
and
say,
they have.
Oh,
yeah. Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna go. The caffeine is kicking in now. We're caffeine's kicking in. Anyway,
all right.
I understand why companies may not necessarily want to always be risky with IPs, because obviously development costs are a lot. But you can make them. There's that mid-range game. You guys know a studio called Spiders. They and Nacon, they make kind of mid-range games. Focus Entertainment does a lot of that, and they're we'd call them like AA games, meaning they're not indie, but they're also not the big blockbusters. And some of those games, well, they're a little janky, but they're a lot of fun, and you get a lot of heart out of them. They're in a reasonable
cost. Yep.
Yeah, and the reasonable cost to the consumer. Meaning, if I waste $40 on a game, I might be mad. I may not do anything, but I'm not nowhere near as mad if you're like, oh yeah, this starts at $70.
This is an $80 game, something. Yeah. Like with the newest Civilization 7.
Oh God, I'm sorry to hear that. I feel bad for fans.
What happened now? I'm sorry, I'm not.
People that have gotten it in advanced access, paying $100 or something like that, and they're getting more like an early access version of it because things are fucking incomplete and buggy.
Yeah, and I
Terrible
don't.
UI apparently.
I mean, look, I get paying for early access is one thing. I'm never a fan of Head Start. So a lot of new games are doing like, this is the full release, and it releases on February 28th. But if you buy the special version, the special good boy version, or higher,
3 or 6 days early access,
and it's just like, and look, I get that people want to monetize, they want to make money, they want to do things. I'm not against businesses existing and making money. That just seems I don't know, predatory. Well, have some resistance. Okay, well, you have some resistance, Sharon. I don't tell you.
Okay, so here's my take, right? So like a single player game, I don't like. I guess my thing is if it's a single player game, whatever, fine. So if someone really wants to play Baldur's Gate 3 3 days early, you know what? Fine. I can. Okay, cool. Play your game 3 days early. Have a great time. Where I tend to be a little bit less understanding is when you hear about games like Call of Duty being like, oh yeah, get access to the game 3 days early and get an XP boost for being early. Really? Is that like okay, fine. You're not giving players a power advantage, but I don't know. I feel like 3 days of play before anybody else might as well be one.
It definitely is, because if things unlock in a progressive manner, and I'm given more time to get familiar with the maps, and especially before any type of ranking, and it's just and how they
gives a massive advantage.
Yeah, that's a massive advantage. And even if it's not just like, oh, my gun does more damage, it's just I know that from having 70 matches over the last 3 days, I know that this map, if I'm right here, I have a better chance of not getting shot or whatever. And again, I've played a little Call of Duty in my time. I'm not super good. I'm not super terrible. But I would say that if I were to play against CD, and CD's like, yeah, I spent the last year or last week, we'll say, playing it on these maps. Like, wow, he's gonna run the hell over me because he knows vantage points that I don't know. I haven't even thought about that yet. It's like, oh, and how do you find out about something?
Or I know specific things about weapons and stuff.
You get got.
So, yeah.
You find out by getting got. And I'm not mad at getting got, but it does seem a little like we have our sharks here. Guys, wait.
It's a little bit of
Minnows, come on in.
win.
Come on in,
Well,
Minnows.
as a fighting game fan, I can relate to this a little bit better.
God, yeah, you have it
because so like okay.
No, you do.
So, like,
you just do. I know how much they want to charge you for characters on Steam. Like I know.
So like one of the things in fighting games that happens, it happens in any competitive space, is like the best time to get into a fighting game is at launch, because at least you're all starting relatively on the same technical playing field. I mean, obviously certain player skills from game to game can transfer, but by and large, you're all starting technically on the same general level of experience, right?
Yeah.
And then you get to like a game in its first like 3 to 4 months, like within the first month or so, 90% of people have been like filtered out between like, the experienced players and like the non-experienced. It doesn't take long. It doesn't take long, right? Like within the first like couple weeks, you have filtered like 90% of players, right? Because most players have already been filtered out. They've either quit or they are hard stuck at a rank and they're just grinding that bitch out until they get better. Believe me, as
makes sense.
As someone who's put, I want to say 90 hours into Guilty Gear Xrd, another 50 hours into Guilty Gear Plus, one of the Guilty Gear Pluses or something like that. I forget which one it is. Accent Core Plus. That was it. Accent Core Plus. I put another 50 hours into that and a few into one of the newer ones.
Okay.
I will tell you outright, man, like I play with my friends. I will not play in random lobbies with people, man, because you run into some goddamn monsters. That is bro, I'm not even high rank, dog, and I will get into a match with someone that's presumably at my rank. Bro, I get my shit stomped in. That is never fun.
Well, there could be a matter of smurfing, which is one of the things that happens in multiplayers, where you're like, because I know that was a big problem in some of the MOBAs where people would create alt accounts, like this person's actually like, in masterful ranks, real high ranks, and then they have another account that's in like bronze, and it's like you're playing way too you're too good to be this rank naturally, without either being demoted or it's a different account. And again, I don't know. Like I said, I don't do a lot of fighting games, so I understand that there's obviously varying skill sets, things like that happen. But sometimes it's just like, I understand getting your face caved in.
Yeah, because like one of the things I've always tended to look at was like the notion of like how long is a player willing to commit to learn something, right?
Yeah.
Like
I'll go after you.
Like I suck at Call of Duty. Like, just straight out, I am terrible at first-person shooters. I have never denied this, which is crazy to me because you have me play Street Fighter and suddenly I am rocking somebody's face. Like it's over. But you put me in like Call of Duty and next thing you know, I get sniped as soon as the map starts. I mean,
So I judge an MMO very similar in that way, where it's how much do you teach me how to play the game versus how much do I have to go to a third-party website to figure out the mechanics.
It's one of the reasons why I really liked WildStar so much is because they had a medal system based on performance with 3 tiers. Bronze completed, silver did at least one objective, gold did all objectives. And when you didn't hit the objectives at the end of the dungeon, it would tell you, hey, you didn't do enough interrupts on the boss. That's why you didn't get this. And it kind of back-fed you. And as you played better, you got more rewards for the whole group. So it was a really cool thing that kind of taught you how to do stuff, and it was very dynamic. It was hard, and obviously the game doesn't exist anymore. It shut down in November of 2018. But the more that you teach me, the better it is, because again, a very small segment of the population is going to go out to third-party websites and watch YouTube videos and things like that because they only have so much time. I want to get on the game and play and have fun. Where is the game that I have fun? Because I worked 8 hours, plus I took care of the kids, or I have to do laundry, or I have to do school, or I have to do a second job, and I just want 2 hours of fun. Let me have 2 hours of fun. And so that's, you know, I feel
that brings me back to like old school WoW, where like it was not uncommon for like everyone I knew to like play WoW and also have a page of like Wowhead open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do that now.
Yeah.
Question. I do that now. But that's not the normal player base. That's someone who's taken something a little bit more seriously, because most players are gonna be like, I'm not. Why am I doing this? I'm having fun, but like I don't want to be. Nobody wants to be stuck like this for 5 hours, where you're pressing forward. It's you know, because this is ill-defined. Now, if it's like a Dark Souls boss or a boss fight, and like Sparking Zero originally had that controversy with Grade 8 Vegeta, where they on higher difficulties was not balanced, and he still isn't, and they're like, it's okay to play at an easier level, but people brute forced it. That at least you know, like, okay, this is the guy that's stopping me, not where do I go, what do I do, who do I click on, how do I talk to, do I have to buy something? That's entirely different than, that's Knight Artorias of the Abyss. I need to go kill him, and he's absolutely making sure I don't.
It's this funny thing where people are like, well, this thing is obviously meant to be beaten. I'm just bad at it. You know what I mean?
The phrase "get good" doesn't mean aha, laugh. It means surpass your limits now.
Yeah,
That's what it means. It's not a club. Some people use it as a club, but those people, and I'm gonna use a technical term, are bad.
So wait, as an aside, do you find yourself like, do you have those like ragey moments where you lose to something and you like, because I don't usually get mad at video games. I usually tend to be like, okay, this is annoying. Why am I dying?
If I find I've started doing something where if I'm not having fun with something, I stop doing it. And I did that. I started doing that about 10, 15 years ago, because I take breaks from WoW and other MMOs at the time. If I'm not having fun, I stopped doing it because my free time is at a premium. I only have so much life, and I want to enjoy as much of it as I can. And while I'm not going to lie, like if I'm trying to get something done with a group of people or I'm helping friends out, I'm more worried that I am going to be a burden. Meaning I want to make sure that if you guys are running with me, we're doing a dungeon and I'm tanking or something, I want to make sure that I'm playing as absolutely perfectly as possible, because I don't want your experience to be ruined because I failed something. Because life is a team sport. We work together. We see that thing. All right, let's club him down. Whap, whap, whap. Loot, pick his pockets. Oh, hey, I got a shield. Why didn't he use the shield? Don't ask those questions. Just give me the shield.
There's a fantastic video I would recommend that you watch. I think you'd really enjoy it. It's from Dan Olson called "Why is rude to." Yeah, I should have known you. I should have known you would have heard of it.
Again, I am studying to be a psychologist, so it's one of those things that group dynamics are kind of important to me. But I think that I try not to rage, and if I find myself getting more and more upset and more heated, I have the wisdom most times to be like, all right, you know what? We're just gonna take a break. We're gonna stop, because games are meant to be fun. They're meant to be enjoyed. And yeah, sometimes I make a little bit of money on YouTube, and sometimes I make a little bit of money on Twitch, playing things. But it's not enough to justify, that
that kind of anger. It's just not worth it.
Just a short point back to what you said before, Rezo, about early access for single-player games. I'm gonna counter you on that, because nowadays, most games that do that are not in a state where they should be taking money for that.
That is
plain and simple.
What if hypothetically they disclose, for example, because I know Hades does single player very well, and they say they're like
Hades was early access. Hades is early access. That's a different thing.
okay. Oh,
I'm talking about the games that
retail release.
release full retail release,
okay,
but
okay.
give you early access, like what they call advanced access on Steam
Yeah,
now for
I
3
know
or
what you're talking
6
about.
days, and
They're
those
not in a
games
state. Yeah, they're
are
not in any
not
state.
in a state that they earn that money for.
Okay. Yeah, I
Like,
agree. I agree with you there. That makes because
Yeah.
early access is up front. Like, hey, we're still working on
exactly.
this.
You know it's not complete.
yeah,
You
okay.
know it's in the works. You support that intentionally.
Okay, yeah, because that's player choice and player agency.
Exactly.
I like this developer. I liked their last 2 games. I will support this game because I know that they're going to give me a quality product, at least to my standards. Versus, oh, hey, get 3 days early access, and I saw a cool trailer, and then
And then you play Star Wars Outlaws, and after the 3 days, once the game is released, you notice there's a game break. There are game-breaking bugs, and you have to restart anyway.
oh yeah, that's a rough pill to swallow to be like, well, we got we got to corrupt your save file to fix the game. Like near. Do you guys remember Near Automata, where you could actually delete your save file and help someone else beat a boss?
Yeah, that's
but that's after 3 playthroughs basically, and it's kind of the culmination of stuff. Like, it's not the game is broken, delete your file and start again. It's like you've done all this. Now do you sacrifice yourself to help others? Little more poignant.
Yeah, essentially.
Well,
yeah, that's more meta.
Yeah.
Yeah, way more meta. Way more meta. I love it. But it's way more meta. Well, I think I think we're gonna wrap this show up. But I will say, Nim, why don't you tell people where people can find you if they are
for those
so
that
inclined.
For those that are interested, you can find me at twitch.tv/Nimicry. That's Nimicry. You can also find me at youtube.com/Nimicry, Nimicry. With the increased workload for studying school and studying for school and being at work, I'm a lead there. I don't stream as much as I did before, and I don't create as many videos as I did before. But I'm always willing to take suggestions, and I do try to sneak something in once or twice a week if I can, just because of the fact that I like talking to people. I like having fun. I like educating. I like informing. It's my loquacious nature. What can I say? But I want people to know this, that if you see streamers, right, the best thing you can do is just talk to them, right? People be like, oh, money. Money's nice. Everybody likes money. It's not a problem. I'm not saying it. But you have to understand that in Twitch, if you are holding 10 average viewers for any length of time, you are in the top 1% of Twitch streamers. Now, you may not be making, because it's so sticky on the ends that there are millions of people streaming to nobody.
Yeah, that is true.
And then there's like 20,000 people who have all of the people and make all of the money. That's how the entertainment industry works. So keep in mind that when someone says, hey, I'm grateful that you're around, yeah, you could be cynical and be like, they're just trying to ploy something. But more often than not, they probably genuinely are excited to see you, because I put a lot of my stuff into every broadcast like I did here. This is me trying to tell jokes and be entertaining and informative and help challenge people to think things from a new perspective. And we do that all the time at twitch.tv/Nimicry or youtube.com/Nimicry. Rezo, CD, thank you for putting up with me today. I know I really appreciated having the chance.
Of course. I was looking forward to it, honestly. As always, everybody, you can find this show on a variety of different streaming platforms such as Apple, Google, and Spotify, and on my YouTube channel, Rezo Basso, at 7 p.m. on Wednesday. Yeah, see, there's this joke that I've had on the show where I didn't commit to a time, and I've only recently committed myself to doing it now. So now I'm
stuck.
So far it's only been about 3 episodes, but it's stuck.
So generally, to build a habit, it takes 21 days.
That's what I've heard. It's 21 days of a habit.
Yeah. So 3 weeks. 3 episodes. You do 1 episode a week. That's something there. So, but if it's 3 weeks, if it's 21 days in a row or something like that, you may need to do a few more episodes to get that to stick. That being said, just don't beat yourself up if you miss one thing. Right? It's not the end of the world.
Yeah, but you know what? I like to set goals for myself. What can I say? I like to
That's good.
push myself just a little bit more than I more probably would have. Otherwise you stagnate, and stagnate's not fun. Don't stagnate.
No.
Be better. Try not to. In any case, everybody, I hope you've enjoyed the show. I know I certainly have. Thank you for listening, and we will see you all next time.
See ya.